What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Duel, back here with another Diablo 4 video, and today I wanted to make a guide on coming back to Diablo 4. So this video is going to be mainly for people who maybe played in Season 1 or 2 or played when the game first launched, and they're coming back to the game and they go, I don't know what to do. I'm back, I want to try it, Paladin's here, I want to play Paladin, what do I do? Or maybe you don't have Paladin, you just want to jump back into the game. Well, this guide will hopefully help you get started on where to look. So, a lot of things have changed since, you've been playing Diablo. An expansion has come out. They've added 2 new classes to the game. So, let's just jump right in. The 2 new classes they've added are Spiritborn and the Paladin, of course. The Paladin being the most latest one. If you pre-ordered the next expansion pack, you get access to the Paladin for free. Well, it's not free, you're paying, but you get early access to them before the expansion pack that comes out in April. So, let's say you're starting a new character, you want to confirm your class, we'll just pick, we'll pick Spiritborn. Confirm the class, select, finalize, it doesn't matter. So what matters here is, I'm just skipping the appearance for speed purposes, but, so these options here are important. When you come in here, there's gameplay options. Obviously, you want seasonal if that's what you're trying to play, which is the current season. And then if you want to play hardcore, there's that option. And then if you want to change your campaign state, now this is important. So by default, this is actually set to start with Vessel of Hatred campaign completed. So Vessel of Hatred, that is just the latest expansion pack. Before the next expansion pack that comes out. It's called Vessel of Hatred. It's just like the next story advancement to the game, obviously, but it'll start with this already done. So what I would do here is I would click to start with the Vessel of Hatred campaign. And the reason for this is this is your first character for the season. If you go through the Vessel of Hatred campaign, you will level up to roughly level 50 pretty quickly just by going through the story. So we're just going to say tutorial, start the seasonal, make sure the campaign state, start with the Vessel of Hatred campaign, and confirm. I'll just set it to normal. So another thing to know, what's changed here is the difficulty setting. So as you can see, they've now added different torments, which before they did not have. So basically how it worked was you would just do normal through Penitent, and then you would do your capstone dungeons, and then you got to level 100, and that was that. So that's no longer how it works now. Now you have different torment tiers, torment 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I believe they were called worlds, but now they're torment. But it doesn't matter. It's the same thing, basically. They just changed how we reach them. So before, you only had one pinnacle dungeon that you had to do, or a capstone dungeon is what they're called, and now you have to clear a capstone dungeon to get to Torment 1 and clear a certain pit tier. Same thing with Torment 2, same thing with Torment 3, same thing with Torment 4, you get the idea. So starting off though, you want to start with either normal or hard, and then if you're trying to follow a guide, my recommendation would be to go to Maxroll, but there's a million other sites that you can pick from if you're trying to do a guide. But if you're just starting out, my recommendation would just be start normal, start the game, and it's going to boot us into the game. So while this is loading, and we'll go ahead and skip this here, watch this for yourself if you want to watch the cutscenes, but it'll put you down here in Kiovashat. So as you can see, I've got my level 1 and it's my Paragon. You get up to 300 Paragon now. I don't remember what the Paragon was before, but I'm just putting it out there that it's Paragon 300. And one of the things that they've changed is they've made it so that Helltide runs pretty much all the time. So if you were here in Season 1 and 2, I believe Helltide ran every hour, or roughly. Or maybe it was like every 30 minutes, but that's no longer the case. It runs for roughly 50 minutes, and then it resets. It takes a break for 5 minutes, and then Helltide will pick another section of the map, and you'll be able to do Helltide again. You'll still lose your cinders at the end of the session, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. If you're like wondering, well, what's the fastest way to level up? It's definitely just doing the campaign, going through and you can press tab here, and then go over to your quests here, and you can start the season quest, or you can come here to start the Vessel of Hatred campaign. just doing the campaign, and even if you just skip all the dialogue and go through it, you'll level up to level 50, level 55 roughly, and you'll have a good set of gear to get you started. That'll eventually push you into Torment 1 and the higher difficulties. But starting out, you'll want to start this out if you're trying to get there as fast as possible. Now I will give you a disclaimer. This is probably not the funnest option, but it is the fastest. So you definitely want to keep that in mind when you're doing this. If you're looking for the most funnest way to do this, my recommendation would be just to do Helltide and do Whispers. And if you don't remember what Whispers are, they're basically these little objectives on the map here that are like highlighted in dark red. You can see here you get 5 Grim Favors, and you only need 10 Grim Favors total to open up a Whisper Tree cache. And the Whisper Tree cache is over here. However, you don't have to teleport to the Tree of Whispers anymore. You can just be in town, and you can talk to the Raven of the Tree. And the Raven of the Tree is right up here. Sorry, I should have just mounted for this, but I just wanted to see if I can find it. It's right here. So you talk to this Raven of the Tree, and you can, you can turn in your Whisper Favors there. So they have the Raven of the Tree in pretty much every major point in town. Like I usually say, Suriger is probably the best town in the game. And this just reminded me of another good tip. You can now right-click on major town points that you want to make your default teleport to. So right-click on your favorite one. In my case, it's Suriger. And then when you teleport, it'll take you to Suriger. So that's another good tip. So just to recap real quick, the fastest way to level up is to the Vessel of Hatred campaign. And then if you want to maximize your fun, I would do Helltide. And there's a nifty website that can actually help you keep track of all this stuff. Give me 1 second, I'm pulling it up here. It is called Helltides.com. What is Helltides.com? Well, it is a tracker for Helltide information. So you can see here, Asmodan spawns in 1 hour and 24 minutes, and then Helltide is active, and it tells you what region Helltide is active in for 34 minutes. And if for some reason the region is not in the right section of your map, you can just come over here and click the drop down of the area that you're trying to select. And like example, if it's in Nahantu, it'll show you the Nahantu map. So another thing to keep in mind is these little chests here are mystery chests, and you won't really see these in the earlier difficulties of Diablo 4. You'll only see these once you get to the torment levels, but they're these orange little chests, and they'll mark these for you in the game, but they require 250 cinders when you're in the torment levels. But when you're playing like normal through Penitent, you're still going to see these caches, but they're not going to be the Gift of Mystery. It'll be, I think it's called the same thing, but it's like 75 cinders instead of 250, and it's not nearly as good. So just keep that in mind when you see this on this map. They're labeling the Gift of Mysteries, and it's in the torment levels, not for the earlier. So, and the reason that is because in the earlier maps, or the earlier difficulties, sorry, there's going to be chests all over the place that'll help you level up. So that's also something to note of. And then there's also Legion events, and then there's world bosses. And then it shows you on the map where these events are. And then, so example, here's a Legion event right here. Let's see if you can find a world boss. I think it's too early to track a world boss right now. But basically, if you want to understand the best way to rotate through getting your whispers as fast as possible, is I would go here and slay Duriel. He's over here in the center of Helltide, basically. For this section anyway. And then another thing you can do to speed up your Helltide is doing the Whispered Harvest. And Harvest is all over the map of Diablo. You can see Harvest here. You can see Harvest here. You can see it here. So one thing I will keep note of is if you don't want to do PvP, I would avoid the PvP ones, but you can just do the regular ones that are not like dark red like this one here. So you can just come over here, do a Harvest. Because Harvest gives you 3 Grim Favors, and so you can see if you do 3 Harvests and then you come over here and do Helltide, you'll definitely get that last one that you need to fill up your Whispers. And then of course doing a world boss gives you 5 Whispers as well. So you'll play the game, playing Helltide, doing your Harvests, Eventually, you'll start getting dungeon keys. You'll get nightmare dungeon keys. And then they have something called Infernal Hordes, which is down over here. And you can also see it also gives you 5 Grim Favors for your Whispering Tree. So it gives you lots of things to do while you're trying to level up and level your Whispers and level up your Paragon, things of that nature. So if you don't know what Infernal Hordes is, I'm not going to go deep dive into it, but basically it's a Vampire Survivor style Diablo type of arena where you go in, you get like 3 boons that you can pick from, and then you'll fight hordes of monsters until wave 10. Now there's different keys that you'll get that'll determine how many waves you can do, but the most you can do is up to 10 waves. So you'll get these as you're playing, and don't worry about it. You'll get a ton of these keys just by doing world bosses, doing Helltide, opening chests. You'll get all sorts of these types of activities. So I would say early game definitely do these because it's a lot of fun, and it also it's kind of a gear check. This is definitely on the harder side, not like super hard, but it's definitely harder than Helltide, I would say, a little bit, but not too much harder. And just gives you an idea of where your gear is. And don't worry about wasting these keys. You'll get plenty of them. So if you die, it's not that big of a deal. The other thing is, if you bought the Vessel of Hatred campaign, you have the Undercity, and for the season they're calling it Andariel's Invasion, and basically it's a timed dungeon that you have to fill up this blue bar, almost like a Diablo 4 Rift, but it's not the same thing, but it's very similar. You go in there, you kill a bunch of monsters, you fill up a blue bar, and if you fill up the blue bar with the time left in the dungeon, you get to fight a boss, and you get a chest of rewards at the end of the dungeon. So just keep in mind, this is only something that you get when you buy the expansion. If you don't buy the expansion, you don't have access to this section. So, and then one thing to note is that when you do buy the expansion, you'll get access to this map, the Curious Bazaar, and Nahantu is what it's called. You'll also see that it has its own Helltide timer, so definitely keep that in mind. And there's a section for that on the website for Helltides. And there's a drop down for Nahantu. It'll tell you where the mystery chests are for this map too. I don't know if it shows the timer for it, so let's see here. Nahantu. It doesn't look like it does, so you just gotta keep an eye on it. Keep an eye out for it. And just drop down here and see where, I think it's in the same spot every time, actually, now that I'm looking at it now. But this is something to keep a note of. There's 2 different Helltide timers, one for Nahantu and then one for the general overworld of Sanctuary, basically. So keep that in mind, because you could double dip. You could fight Duriel over here, get your 5 favors, and then come down here, fight Duriel over here, get another 5 favors, boom, you got yourself another free Whisper Cache. So, and then you have your Nightmare Dungeons, which haven't really changed that much, but they basically, they made them a lot easier, I would say, and they're a lot more fun to do. Another big changes they made to the game, and let me just switch over to my main character to explain this better. And I have a full video. I'm about to go talking about crafting, how crafting's a little different in Diablo 4. It's not much of a crafting system, but it's definitely way more than what it was when you first played back in Season 1 or Season 2, right? So, first they made big advancements in Season 5, and then now they've made more advancements this season in Season 11. So, once again, I have a full video talking about crafting, so if you want to go see that, go check that out. But I'm just going to do a brief skim over here just to get you familiar. So the same things that you're used to are still here, but now we have a forging, which you can forge a mythic cache, and I'll get to mythics later. And then you can craft a smithy cache, but you don't have to do that. It's just sort of optional. Now you've got tempering. So how tempering works is you have an item, and I would say wait until you have at least all legendaries to start doing this. But you can do this essentially whenever you have recipes, which will drop throughout Diablo when you're playing the game. There's these little scrolls you'll pick up, and don't worry, you'll pick them up. Don't worry about where to find them, how to get them. They just drop randomly. You pick them up, and then they get stored into here automatically when you right-click them in your inventory. So you come over here, bring an item over here, and you can pick a stat based on your gear here. So obviously this is a helmet, and these are the 2 stats that are available for it. And you can go in here, what do you want on it? You want physical resistance, or you can temper it on there. So boom, we got a temper. And you see we've got the physical resistance that we wanted. You can see it's 440 through 490, and the 474 was the roll. So you get the idea here. You go through here, and you can change your temper based on what you want. Like, what if I want life on hit? Re-roll it. Boom. You get life on hit, and you get the idea. You can come over here. You can change it to utility, Frost Nova size. Bam. So I'm playing a sorcerer, so if I want to increase my Frost Nova size, you get the idea. So you get one temper, and then after your tempering, you do masterworking, which basically masterworking just raises the quality of your gear. It makes it a lot better. And in order to masterwork, you need what's called Obfuscite and Neat Iron, and a bunch of other crafting materials like Forgotten Souls and Coiling Wards. As you can see, I have a ton of these just by playing the game, and I haven't been crafting as much lately because I pretty much have all the gear that I need. But over time, you'll farm these by either doing Infernal Hordes or Nightmare Dungeons. They drop a ton of the crafting material you need to increase the quality. So what happens when you increase the quality? Well, it does this. It improves the stats of the item. You can see I'm 9 out of 25 quality. And we're going to go all the way with it. Once you get to the last upgrade of it, it gives you a random stat that it basically crits on, is what I call it. You can see that it critted on Frost Nova size, which is my temper that I picked earlier, and it's now orange. So keep that in mind, and if you don't like the crit that you got, you can re-roll it, so hit close, and then you just hit upgrade again. But it'll cost you. It'll cost you some more Obfuscite, and it'll cost you some Neat Iron. So you can see I have 174 Neat Iron, so just keep that in mind when you're doing it. It's kind of a rare item, or rare item crafting material that you need to re-roll your crit. So let's just do it again here for demo purposes. And then boom, as you can see, I got lucky hit chance. So you can kind of see there's a little bit of crafting going on, but nothing too crazy, but definitely a step in the right direction since Diablo 4 has even launched. So you'll want to come over here and do this, and I would say definitely wait till you're pretty happy with your gear. Maybe if you're in T3, T4, if you're even getting that far doing this, or if you need to get past a capstone dungeon, sorry, I don't know why I stuttered there. If you need to get past a capstone dungeon, this would be a good place to upgrade your gear there. So keep that in mind. So you got tempering, you got masterworking, and then of course now we have Mythic. So if you don't know what Mythic uniques are, they've already been in Diablo since launch. They were just not called Mythic uniques yet, but they're basically the rarest items in the game. And I actually have, or weapons, I guess I should say, armor and weapons, but you get the idea. So I have a few of them, and Mythic uniques are purple, and they even say here Ancestral Mythic Unique. I have 3 of them, so this is what they look like. So there's a couple ways you can get Mythic uniques. Option 1 is when you kill like Lilith on T4, or not even T4, you can kill her on any torment actually, and you get a Resplendent Spark. Let me show you what that is. So a Resplendent Spark is over here in your stats and materials. Oh, I clicked on wardrobe, did not mean to do that. I have 14 of them, so I have quite a lot this season, probably the most I've ever had, but these are what is used to craft your Mythic uniques. So you don't have to craft them, you can also find Mythic uniques in the world, and I'll explain that. So the best way to get Mythic uniques is by killing lair bosses, which is also a newer thing in Diablo 4, which is just these little areas where you can kill different types of bosses. And all of these bosses, all of them have a chance to drop Mythic uniques, but the ones that you want to do the most of are Duriel, who's right here. You want to do Andariel, who is right here in Hangman's Hall. And then you want to do Palace of the Deceiver, and you fight Belial. Now Belial's special because when you kill him, you can pick any loot pool from any of the other lair bosses in the game. If you're hunting for a certain item and you need a certain lair boss to drop a certain item, Belial is good for that, and I'll talk about Belial here in a second. But basically, getting back to it really quick, we'll finish up Mythic discussion. So you can do lair bosses. Any of these lair bosses can drop a Mythic unique, but Duriel and Andariel are the 2 that you want to do. And then as a bonus, you can do You can also do Belial, and you can just pick Andariel or Duriel's loot pool and get you a mythic unique that way. So if you don't have any mats for Duriel and Andariel, you can do Belial and then pick Duriel or Andariel's loot pool and get a mythic that way. So those are other ways of doing it. The other way that you can do it is by getting a Tribute of Ascendance. And as you can see, I have 15 of these. Now this is these are the keys that you use to run the Undercity in the Vessel of Hatred expansion pack, and I touched on this briefly earlier, but it's basically this little dungeon that I talked about earlier, the timed dungeon. You do this, and at the end of it, you get a chest, and you fight a boss, and then you get a chest, and it opens up gear. So you run this, and you get a chance, a higher chance of getting mythics. Now I will say it's not a guarantee, but it does give you a higher chance of getting mythic uniques. So if you see this, you definitely want to run this, but save it to where you're sorry, my nose is itching. Save it to when you're in T3, T4, so you get a higher chance of getting a mythic, and also make sure your build is strong enough to run T4 very quickly. You don't want to waste this. Like I said, you're going to get more of these, but I would say they don't drop as often as I'd like, but they do drop more often than not in this season particularly. But just keep that in mind. Save this for last when you think you're strong enough and you're ready to go, and you can speed through the Undercity pretty quickly. And you'll understand what I mean when you do it, but just keep that in mind. If you're trying to get mythics, save this for last. So going back over here, you can talk to the blacksmith here, and you can forge a mythic cache. So this requires two resplendent sparks, and he drops you a cache, and it gives you a random guaranteed mythic unique. So the only problem is you don't know which one you're gonna get, and if you get a mythic you don't want and you salvage it, you get one resplendent spark back. You don't get two, you get the one. So keep that in mind. Another way you can do it is you can come over here to the jeweler, and you can actually craft them with runes. So I'll get to runes here in just a second, but I just want to add real quick, and when you buy the Vessel of Hatred expansion pack, you get access to runes. So just keep that in mind. If you just have the base Diablo game, you don't have runes, you have to buy the expansion. It's kind of lame, but it is what it is. So anyway, so it'll tell you here on the right you need a Resplendent Spark. I'll just click on, let's see here, Harlequin's Quest, the Shaco. As you can see, you need 2 Resplendent Sparks. You need Eom, Lack, and Tone runes. You need 6 of each of those runes. And it's, it's same thing across the board, just different runes, right? And then you need 2 Resplendent Sparks, and you can craft a Harlequin Quest yourself. So you can craft them. You can find them by doing lair bosses, and you can, just find them randomly throughout the world. I personally have never found them randomly throughout the world. I've only ever found them either through crafting or doing the lair bosses. So I would say do T3, T4, save up all your boss mats when you're doing this. So speaking of boss mats, they've kind of changed how they do it now. It used to be you need like 4 or 5 to do one boss. Now you only need 1 to 1 correlation to each boss. Judicator's Mask, you can fight Urivar, and then Distilled Fear, you can fight Beast and Ice. Living Steel, you can fight Grigor. I mean, it tells you here where you can fight it, but you get the idea. So Malignant Heart is Varshan, and they're labeled all throughout the map here. They look like they have these like little wings on them, or these little devil horns, I guess I should say. And they tell you what you need to go fight them and what layer key you need to open the chest. So after you kill a boss, you can kill a boss once, and then it drops a chest, and then you have to spend, in this case, Distilled Fear. You need 12 Distilled Fear to open the chest. So keep that in mind when you're doing lair bosses as well. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then, trying to think, is there anything else that I could talk about here? I think that might be it. I just wanted to talk about runes. So yeah, we can talk about runes here real quick. So runes take up 2 sockets in your items here, just like gems do, and they give you special abilities. So I have Neo Ohm here, and I invoke the Barbarian's Warcry skill, increasing your damage dealt by 15% for 6 seconds. And then on my helmet, I have Igni Jaw. Stores offering every 3 seconds. Cast a non-basic skill to gain the stored offering. Again, I'm not going to do a deep dive into runes here, but it's a new feature added to the game since Vessel of Hatred. I have a video explaining runes, so if you want to go check that out, that does more of a deep dive in explaining how they work. But they're basically just two different items that you put in there as a combination. You got one, and then your two, and you combine them together, and you get a special ability that comes out of it. Doesn't change the game too much, but it's pretty cool since the launch of Diablo, and it's also a reference to Diablo 2. So just to make sure that makes sense here, you can see Igni Jaw. That's the combination of runes that I picked. Igni Jaw, you get the idea. And there's runes all throughout the game when you're playing. They look like this. There's legendary runes. There's magic runes. And, rare runes, right? So there's that. And then you have, for the season ability, you have Sanctification, which you come over here in the Heavenly Forge. And you'll get these things called Heavenly Sigils. And you would do this when you're done with your weapon or item, your set of armor completely. So you come over here, Heavenly Forge, and of course all of my items are blacked out. But I'll go ahead and demonstrate. I'll use Mother's Embrace. We'll sanctify it. As you can see, I have 112 Heavenly Sigils. We're going to sanctify. This is what the item looks like before sanctification. Sanctify it. And now it's sanctified. And you can see here, see the little angel wings? It says sanctified. And if you look on the affix here, item quality is 5 out of 25. Terrible sanctification, but this is what it does, right? So it basically, what it does is it can randomly add a item quality, or it can randomly add a legendary power, and I believe it can randomly add a mythic ability. So it's kind of a cool new feature they've added for the season. I actually hope it's permanent, but it's the final thing that you want to do when you're crafting. And I have a full guide that talks about, when I go more in depth on how crafting works in Diablo 4 and Sanctification, but that's the season theme for season 11. And I hope it stays permanent. But one thing to note before we wrap up Sanctification is that once you sanctify your item, you can no longer modify it. You can't add a socket to it. You can't change your legendary power to it. You can't touch the item anymore after that. So make sure when you come here to Sanctification, you're done with your item. You're happy with it. You've masterworked it. You've tempered it. You've given your legendary power. And you're happy with that. So that reminds me, before we wrap it up, we need to talk about legendary powers. So let's go over here to the Occultist, and you'll get an item, and this is not new. You can get an item here, and you can access your Codex of Power. So now you have access to all these different powers that you can pick from, and this is just your legendary ability that you can give to it. So, like, for example, right now the legendary ability is the Singed Extremities. After immobilize or stun wears off, enemies are slowed by X% for 4 seconds. And you click in your Codex of Power, and you can say Aspect of Might, and it gives you a preview. Oh, the Aspect of Might, skills grant 20% damage reduction for 9 seconds. So the way that it works is when you're out getting legendaries in the world, let's say, so this one, I only have up to 9 seconds, but eventually I'll find a Aspect of Might that has 10 seconds. So when, let's say that this does have, let's go ahead and imprint it here just so I can explain this better. So let's say that I found one, and this was a 10-second Helm of Might, and I salvage it, and I go over to the blacksmith and I salvage the item. It's going to tell you and pop up and say, you've added, first off, if you didn't have this power in your codex, it'll add it to your codex. And then second of all, let's say I had a 5-second Helm of Might aspect, and I didn't have another one after that, and then I got the helmet here that was 10 seconds, and I salvaged it. Then it's going to come in the codex and say, it's going to upgrade your codex, and now I have a Helm of Might for 10 seconds. And you'll just find legendaries throughout the world, and you'll be salvaging a ton, so you'll probably upgrade your codex without even knowing it, just by playing the game and salvaging your inventory. So definitely just salvage. Never really sell unless you're just done with your codex and you're really short on cash. But as you can see, I have so much gold here this season particularly that it's not really an issue, and historically it hasn't been an issue in the past, so not something that you really need to worry about. And of course, You also have your Gambler. Where is he? I actually don't know where he's at in Kyovashat, so we're gonna head over to Sarigor, and we'll go over the Gambler, because the Gambler is still pretty good in Diablo 4. He's been hit or miss every other season. Sometimes he sucks, and sometimes he's amazing. For the most part, I've had pretty good luck with him. I don't really use him until I get to like T3 or T4, but you can come in here and use your Murmuring Obols, which you'll get from doing Undercity, and you'll get from doing the Pit. And we'll talk about Pit here in just a second too. But you'll get your Obols, and then of course you can just gamble for gear that you need. Okay, so moving on, we got the Pit. And the Pit is over here in Sarigor, which is why I recommend that if you're playing Diablo 4 and you're coming back, I would just come and make your base home Sarigor. So right click on this bad boy, make him your hometown. And this is called the Pit. Now, what is the Pit? Well, you've already done the Pit before. No, you haven't? Yes, you have. You've played Diablo 3. If you played Diablo 3, you know what the Pit is. But just in case you haven't, basically the Pit is a dungeon that is timed, and you kill so many mobs. In fact, I'm on my main character here, so I will just show you it. So we're going to run one. I'm going to run a Pit 75. What you want to do this as quickly as possible. Once you fill up the orange bar, you'll have glyphs that you can level up at the end. And it's really important because it gives you a ton of additional power. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible. Just going to yap here for a little bit until I can explain how it works. Alright, so we can see we filled up the orange bar, and it takes us to the boss lair, which in this case it's Belial. We're going to one-shot him here, but it doesn't matter. Boom, he's dead. Okay, so once you kill the Pit boss, you'll get your, you'll get this giant little statue here that you can upgrade your glyphs here. And you come in here and you can, the glyphs that you have assigned to your Paragon board, and you just upgrade them. Boom, 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 boom. And upgraded. And that's it. That's the Pit. You just do that over and over. And then you upgrade your glyphs. And once you get your glyphs to 2 different levels, first set is level 15. And then after that, you want to get it to level 45. Once you get your glyphs to level 45, they become legendary glyphs. And once you get them to legendary, they become increasingly more powerful. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing the Pit. So I think I've explained pretty much everything to get you started to really hopping back into Diablo. And they also, on a optional note, I would not recommend doing this, but it's just while it's here. There are dungeons that you can run that are whisperings that give you 5 whispers, but it's one of the slowest ways to do whispers. Recommendation would be to do the harvesting or the boss over here in Helltide, and doing the harvest. But to have the most fun, I would say just hover around Helltide and doing the harvest and just turning in as much whisper caches as you possibly can. And then when you finally get bored of that, you should have enough boss mats to run around and do a few bosses this season, which also grant you a ton of EXP, at least for this season. But overall, I would say stick to Helltide when you're leveling up, because everybody's going to be playing Helltide. Players are going to be running around doing the same thing that you do. You'll see the Helltide activity happen, and then you'll all run up together, and you'll level up a ton more in the early game than you'll ever level up playing by yourself. So just definitely focus on Helltide. And to recap, like I said, if you want to level up fast, do the Vessel of Hatred. If you want to level up for fun, do the Helltide over here, wherever the section is over in Sanctuary. And then again, you can see over here, look, we've got a Duriel pop up in Nuhantu for the Vessel of Hatred expansion. So as I mentioned earlier, you can come over here, do Duriel, that's 5, and then boom, do Duriel here, that's 5. And it'll reset at the next Helltide, and you can, in between, do Harvest. You can do, every once in a while, the World Boss will spawn, it'll give you 5 favors. And you can do Infernal Hordes, that'll give you 5 favors. Basically, anything Dark Red will give you the 5 favors. Do all of them except for the dungeons, right? Do the lair bosses, that can also give you 5 favors, if you have the materials to do so. But overall, there's just a ton more things for you to do in Diablo 4. A lot more activities to keep you entertained. And then, of course, you have the season theme, which is the Sanctification. And you've got your season journey that you can do. So there's plenty of things for you to do to keep you busy while you level up to at least Paragon 200, getting your glyphs to legendary status at the very least, and then trying to take on Uber Lilith, who is in Torment 4. She doesn't really give you anything other than a Resplendent Spark, which you can use to craft a Mythic unique, as I mentioned. But that, for the most part, that about covers it. I feel like that covers the basis of if you're returning to Diablo 4. And sorry if I recapped a lot of that stuff, and if you knew a lot of that, you can skip over. And I'll go ahead and put sections in the video so that you can hop around as you need. But that should cover it. If you're coming back to Diablo 4, hopefully that helped you. If it didn't, or if it did, leave in the comments below what you think, or if you're excited, what's gotten you to come back to Diablo 4. If you just bought Diablo 4 maybe for Christmas or something, let me know, because I'm very curious. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you found this guide helpful. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. You are not obligated to, but it does help out the channel a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!